For the second time in a fortnight, Australian troops in Afghanistan have been attacked by an Afghan soldier they were training. This time, 3 soldiers were wounded. Last time, 3 were killed and 7 wounded. The Prime Minister is adamant Australia won't withdraw from Afghanistan, but admits the attacks will corrode trust in the mission. As political editor Chris Ullman reports, there's growing doubt about the wisdom of staying on.
Let's just get back.
A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
We know there are casualties.
Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror.
I've never seen nothing like it in my life.
In 2001, the case for action was compelling, but the enemy was elusive.
And the worst part about it is there ain't nobody to fight.
The attack on the United States had been planned in Afghanistan by Osama bin Laden.
The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts.
The radical Islamic clerics who ran that country refused to surrender the al-Qaeda leader.
We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
So the US attacked. And the Australian Prime Minister invoked the ANZUS Treaty and joined the fight.
We all will hope and pray it will not be long, but the reality is it could be protracted. There will inevitably be the risk of casualties.
The Labor Party was in lockstep.
The Labor Party and the Liberal Party are as one in supporting the activities of our allies.
And the case for Australia going to war was
The
made.
Taliban has allowed Afghanistan to become a safe haven for international terrorism.
Afghanistan has been used in the past as a terrorist training base, and we are there to deny terrorists that safe haven in the future.
Terrorism Central moved. It went to Pakistan and it went to Yemen and maybe Somalia and places like that. So really an argument that you're in Afghanistan to prevent terrorism from occurring there again is really, I think, not very convincing.
Originally, 10 years ago, there might have been some reason to have gone there when you had, they were training terrorists. But now, 10 years later, all that's in the past. And all that's happening is the government is sacrificing the best young Australians that we've got.
In the decades since, 32 Australians have died in Afghanistan and 212 have been wounded. But the bulk of the casualties have come in the last 2 years, and now there's a chilling new threat.
At approximately 8:30 Afghan local time in the morning, or about 3 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, a member of the Afghan National Army opened fire with an automatic weapon on a number of Australian and ANA soldiers participating in a regular weekly parade.
This year, 4 Australians have been killed by the Afghan troops they were training and 10 have been wounded. 3 were killed just a fortnight ago.
Australian soldiers, including some of those who were wounded, engaged the gunman who was subsequently shot and killed.
And on the day a memorial to one of the fallen was being held in Brisbane came news of another attack.
3 Australian soldiers have been wounded in an incident in Afghanistan overnight. The soldiers were members of Mentoring Task Force 3, operating at a patrol base in the Charmeston region, northeast of Tarankot, when an Afghan National Army soldier, located in an overwatch position, opened fire on Australian and ANA soldiers using an automatic weapon and a grenade launcher.
What has happened over the last 6 years is that there's been 60 ISAF personnel killed by Afghans, Afghan National Army people, and but the tempo has stepped up because in the last 12 months there's been 26, so that's 26 out of the 60 have occurred in the last 12 months.
Clive Williams has been studying the reasons why Afghans kill international forces. About 25% of the attacks are inspired or carried out by the Taliban. The rest are less easy to explain, and the Americans are bearing the brunt of the casualties. In November last year, 6 died at the hands of an Afghan after he'd argued with his father over his wedding plans.
He then went and killed the 6 Americans. The case in March this year where an Afghan Air Force pilot shot dead 8 American USAF personnel plus an American contractor. The story I heard was that was resenting being ordered to do things by American women.
In 2001, the Afghanistan war enjoyed strong public support, but it's tough for democracy to wage a long war. John Howard recognised that a long time ago.
History is littered with many examples of where an early strong tide of support subsequently dissipates.
The war is now unpopular, but as yet there's no groundswell for a withdrawal. These attacks could spark widespread unrest, and Julia Gillard knows that.
These attacks corrode trust, and I am very conscious that this attack, coming so soon after the dreadful killings of the 29th of October, will work to cause Australians to question our mission in Afghanistan and the trust we should have in Afghan National Army soldiers.
There was even a veiled nod towards the growing mistrust between Australian and Afghan troops at a recent ramp ceremony to farewell the fallen.
While we all struggle with the manner of the passing of these brave men, please spare a thought for their families, for they are the ones who sacrificed the most for these fallen.
The government has no intention of pulling out.
Training the Afghan National Army and the Afghan National Police is pivotal to our mission. Our purpose there is to train Afghan people so that they can provide security for their own nation, and so we can transition to Afghan-led security and ultimately bring our troops back from Afghanistan.
And I think we've got very good reasons to doubt whether that's viable, and the more we see the kind of incidents we've seen over the last 24 hours, and for that matter the last couple of months, the less credible it is that we're really going to succeed in building an army in Afghanistan that we can trust and that can really help to build a stable Afghanistan.
Retired Major General Alan Stretton's service dates back to the Second World War. He was also the man who oversaw the rebuilding of Darwin after Cyclone Tracy. He's a long-standing critic.
We went there originally to kill or capture bin Laden. That was the original objective. Now that's been done. The Americans are already withdrawing. We've been there 10 years. How long are we going to leave our forces there, and how long are our politicians going to be sending them over? And particularly now that they're actually being killed by the Afghani army that we're supposed to be training.